All eyes on Bihar. Four months to state polls. Election Commission looking at a 2 to 3 phase election. Politics heating up. The latest political googly from the LJP. The Lok Janshakti Party Ram Vilas advocating its party supremo Chirag Paswan to contest the upcoming assembly elections in Bihar, and that too not from a reserved but a general seat. His party pushing the narrative that Chirag not just a Dalit leader and should contest the assembly elections, indicating he is eyeing the Chief Minister's post. The NDA has already declared the upcoming Bihar elections will be fought under the leadership of Chief Minister Nitish Kumar, something even echoed by Chirag himself. So what explains the Chirag for CM narrative spun by his own party? Chirag Paswan's Bihar bid, pressure tactics on BJP or BJP strategy to replace Nitish. Political Stock Exchange on India Today. All right, along with that question, our tracker has recorded in the Political Stock Exchange some startling numbers, especially when it comes down to the preferred chief ministerial candidate, more so on how the people of Bihar are perceiving the performance of their own state government. Before we dive into our first question on the Political Stock Exchange, let me quickly take you through our political panelists who are going to be taking us through and deciphering these numbers. For us, we have Yashwant Deshmukh, psephologist, founder, director of Sea Water; Sanjay Kumar, co-director, Lokniti, CSDS, and psephologist; Amitabh Tiwari, election analyst and researcher; Dr. Manisha Priyam, political analyst; and Rajdeep Sardesai, consulting editor, who will be in the studio for us. So what we've done, viewers, is how we are gauging this metric where Bihar is concerned in terms of popularity. We have split it in 3 months. So February of 2025, what was the popularity of the government and certain leaders? We give you those figures. Then April, what those figures are, and now tracking the same figures in May. Has there been a change at all? Let me quickly, first up, before we dive into our first question, cut across to Amitabh Tiwari, as well as we have Sanjay Kumar with us, our other two guests joining us shortly. Amitabh Tiwari, big questions coming to the fore. One of the most interesting, of course, before we get into the numbers, is the case of Chirag Paswan. Chirag Paswan, till about 2 weeks ago, himself seemed to suggest that the NDA fighting this election under Nitish Kumar, and now his own political party spinning a completely different narrative, practically projecting him as CM candidate.
No, see, Chirag Paswan clearly realizes the fact that in a post-Nitish era, there is going to be a leadership vacuum, not only at the state level, but in the NDA itself. With BJP piggybacking on JDU for almost 20 years now, what has also happened that the BJP also does not have a pan-state leader with mass appeal. So he is trying to position himself for a future role and pitch himself directly versus Tejashwi Yadav. See, one is also a battle of regaining the past glory of LJP. There are two very contrasting trends for LJP. Its performance in the Vidhan Sabha elections has been deteriorating since its foundation. It bagged close to 12% vote share in 2005 and won 29 seats. Now it has just one seat with almost 6% vote share. So on a standalone basis, it is not able to do much, but in alliance with BJP or GDU in the Lok Sabha elections, it tends to do well because it has this pocket of 5 to 6% Paswan Dusad community vote share. But his announcement to contest the elections does bring in an eerie unease in JDU, because last time he contested or put up candidates only against JDU and led to the defeat of almost 33 candidates of JDU. So the weakening of the JDU, allegedly also at or ostensibly also at the behest of BJP, did
Right.
result in Nitish Kumar weakening. And there is also a reason for this rift between LJP and JDU is that LJP used to have 11-12% vote share of the Dalit community.
Right.
After Nitish came to power, the creation of the Mahadalit category left only 6% of Paswan Dusad Samaj in the Dalit category, which has just halved the vote share of Chirag Paswan's party and is trying to, by contesting or by announcing or by, as per reports, that he would contest from a general seat, is also trying to now project that he is a leader of various castes and communities and not
True, not
restricted.
just the leader of the Dalits, because that is at least what his party is projecting, something that was tweeted out by his brother-in-law as well. But I want to bring in Dr. Manisha Priyam very quickly before we dive into our numbers, and Sanjay Kumar. But Dr. Priyam, for somebody who knows Bihar a little more than most of us, especially where the latest news coming in of Chirag Paswan's party now is trying to spin a narrative, how much do you think, because there are two ways of looking at it. One, of course, you know, that the BJP trying to prop up this narrative to basically make sure that Nitish Kumar is replaced.
So, there are many narratives, but let me tell you, there is one dominant narrative. And that narrative is that this election is being fought under the dominant political leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Now, everybody is talking about the Madhubani rally, but let me give you the nuances. I have met people who were attending a wedding in Patna, and this was the wedding of a Bhumihar leader's son. The Prime Minister was attending a wedding as a local neta would. The Prime Minister himself took a Karyakarta meeting of just about 70 people in closed doors. And I have interviewed people who attended that meeting, the BJP workers, and I can tell you how charged up they are. So the main narrative is the one that is not up for discussion. These are all side narratives. And I can tell you, Chirag Paswan's jostling today and saying, I may be chief minister, etc. He also knows in his heart of hearts.
Right.
He was thrown out of Ramvilas Paswan's house. He still came back and said, I am Hanuman ji and I will serve my Lord Ram, etc. This is hardly the moment that he'll go anywhere away. And given the feeble political situation of the JDU, given the very unstable, unfortunate health of the Honorable Chief Minister Nitish Kumar, this is not the time that the Prime Minister will allow Chirag Paswan to go straight on to attack Nitish Kumar and his political base. Rather, he will allow the young personality to play out. The important part is that the Prime Minister, by allowing Chirag Paswan, he's using one of the many cards in his pack, which is to show that he also has a charismatic youth leader who can attract. I would see him directed and targeted more towards Tejashwi, who's also projects himself as a young dynamic
and less
leader.
on Nitish.
Yes, that's how I look at it.
Very interesting. Before we cut across to our first numbers, viewers, which is the preferred chief ministerial candidate of Bihar, and how the tracker has projected each of these political personalities through a course of February 25, April 2025, and May 2025. I want to bring in Sanjay Kumar, co-director, Lokniti, CSDS, and sophologist, because Mr. Kumar, at one end, of course, is party affiliation and then is personality affiliation. How much does it matter in terms of vote if a particular personality does better than the others? Do people really vote on personality or party?
See, personality alone does not ensure party's victory. There has to be a combination. A good personality or a personality which attracts vote, it attracts vote only and only if the party has a sizable support base. I think party still remains at the core of voters' choice. If you ask this question to the voters, whether in Bihar or any part of this country, and we have been asking this question, a very large number of Indian voters, just to cite the numbers, roughly 60 to 65% of Indian voters say they decide whom to vote for, keeping in mind the choice for the party. So party becomes very, very important. Yes, leadership is also important, but leadership, if the party is sinking, even if there is a charismatic leader, he or she cannot pull votes for the party.
All right, fair point. So All right, let's, without further ado, immediately dive into our first set of numbers. And this is the most important, viewers. The preferred chief ministerial candidate of Bihar. What do the people of Bihar feel 4 months from elections? And that's the interesting result that the Political Stock Exchange survey has thrown up. Tejashwi Yadav was 40.6% in February. In April, he came down to 35.5% and seen a marginal 1.5% increase in May. So this is what it looks like. Right under him, you have Nitish Kumar, the incumbent chief minister from the JDU. 18.4% February, it fell to 15.4% in April. May was 18.4%. So the popularity of the incumbent chief minister has actually fallen in April from February, but risen back to what the numbers were in February. Is 18.4% enough for an incumbent chief minister to fight an election in his name? That's the question mark there, where your opponent right now is standing at 36.9%. What's really interesting in all of this, viewers, is not so much as Chirag Paswan's number jumping from 3.7 to 5.8 and now 10.6. So Chirag Paswan popularity has clearly seen a rise, but look at Prashant Kishor. The JSP, February 14.9%, April all the way to 17.2% and fallen just a bit in May to 16.4%. So Prashant Kishor, of course, making some amount of inroads to what he would claim is the youth of Bihar, the disgruntled, disillusioned youth of Bihar, or many would suggest now, maybe pulling in some vote where the forward casts are concerned. BJP wouldn't be very happy with their own deputy CM there. February 8.2, Samrat Choudhry, April 12.5, and now down to 6.6. So that's a big fall, and the gainers seem to be very clearly Chirag Paswan, an ally of the NDA. I want to bring in immediately Amitabh Tiwari to it. Amitabh Tiwari, what these numbers seem to suggest. We also have Yashwant Deshmukh. Let's get in Yashwant Deshmukh, who's been tracking these numbers all the way from February. Yashwant Deshmukh, what do you make of these numbers of preferred chief ministerial candidate? Tejashwi Yadav was 40.6%, fell to 35, now gained about 1.5% more in terms of popularity, while Nitish Kumar, 18.4% and now still at 18.4%. Chirag Paswan, huge rise. Samrat Choudhry, huge fall. Prashant Kishor actually doing well.
Well, numbers are stabilizing over a period of time, because BJP has refused to give or promote any of their leaders' name. We saw Samrat Chaudhry's name going up, and now it seems like that numbers, even for Nitish Kumar, I would say 18% is a tad low, even though he is like declared candidate of NDA. It certainly tells us that even though he is declared, but he doesn't carry the kind of popularity that used to be in 30s and 40s, or 10 years back. So something has changed, and that change is clearly visible. As you just mentioned, Prashant Kishor has been taking off and is still not crossing 20, but still, getting a sizable chunk. What I am not very sure whether this popularity is going to change in votes and whether those votes will change into seats. That I am not very sure of. But Chirag Paswan's numbers certainly have even surprised me, because I have been marking that even, before India-Pakistan issues happened, his numbers were growing slow and steady. And that is something which tells me that he is going to be there, because I haven't seen any reverse gear of sort as far as Chirag Paswan's numbers are concerned.
Well, you're right there, because very interesting, because what a tracker really does is it gets you an understanding on how the people of Bihar are perceiving their leaders. And while you can see a steady and surprising rise where Chirag Paswan is concerned, within a matter of months, 4 to 5 months, he's jumped from a 3.7% to a 10.6%. So a lot of people now are looking at him breaking the mold of just being a Dalit leader and possibly being a youth, leader as well. And the dip in Samrat Chaudhry also interesting. I want to bring in Amitabh Tiwari and Dr. Manisha Priyan into this, because because Amitabh Tiwari, before we go across to Manisha Priyan, it's interesting because two big developments could add to it. Number one, of course, has been Operation Sindoor, and that seems to suggest in terms of the NDA faces doing better. Strangely, not Samrat Choudhry though, but the allies or the government still doing better. But Nitish Kumar numbers stabilizing, rising from what at least it was in April, could also delve a little deeper into the caste census that the government announced.
So see, essentially, if you see, and despite Operation Sindoor, I would say the combined rating of the NDA leaders has not moved much. It used to be around 34% in April, and it is currently at 35%, still lagging Tejashwi. The dip in Tejashwi is largely pocketed by Nitish Kumar, you can say, and to some extent by Prashant Kishor if we compare with
Or
previous.
Chirag Paswan.
Or Chirag Paswan is largely benefiting, I think, from the Samrat Chaudhary factor. Essentially, with NDA now sort of clearly indicating that the election would be contested under Nitish Kumar, his ratings seem to have jumped back to the Feb levels. That has led to a dip in Samrat Chaudhary's prospects, as Yashwant saying, and we see a dip of 6.5%, leading to an increase of 6.5% for, or rather 4.5% for Chirag, because he has now decided to contest, and is also now trying to be projected as the Dalit and the youth face of NDA to take on Tejashwi. What is also interesting is that if you compare with 2020, what is worrying for Tejashwi Yadav, despite him remaining at number one, is that in 2020, if I recall, both Tejashwi and Nitish Kumar were at 37-38% levels. So the dip in Nitish Kumar's popularity ratings has not led to an increase of popularity for Tejashwi. It has been largely pocketed either by Prashant Kishor or by other leaders of the NDA. And the last point which I wish to make is that, of course, the vote share numbers are not there at this point of time, but the MGB is lacking a combined sort of a leadership, whereas NDA has a combined leadership of various castes and communities. Nitish Kumar chipping in with the Kurmi and the EBC Mahadalit, Chirag Paswan with Paswan's youth, and Samrat Chaudhary with the Koiri votes. Whereas Tejashwi Yadav or MGB is largely restricted to Tejashwi Yadav with MY vote.
Because the other numbers of any other, we were looking at the Congress and the other numbers of the Gathbandhan, and they don't really seem to be registering. So you're right there, other than Tejashwi, who's really doing well. But Manisha Prem, what could be the reason for these numbers, as per you?
So,
how would you read the data?
If you read the political sociology of these numbers, it's very, very interesting to see that Samrat Chaudhary, who's a Kushwaha leader who was pitched by the BJP on an anti-Nitish pitch. Remember, Nitish Kumar also represents the powerful OBC Kurmi community. Its icon today is Sardar Patel, surprisingly. That vote should have gone to a Gujarat-led leadership of the BJP. But the BJP tried to counter that by the Kushwaha leadership invested in Samrat Chaudhary. You can see that in the Kurmi Kushwaha battle, it's still the Kurmis who seem to be very, very intact. Therefore, Samrat Chaudhary will only consolidate some OBC votes for the BJP. He's not emerging over time as a charismatic leader for the BJP. What this board entirely tells you that there is a space in Bihar as a whole in general for a charismatic youth leadership. And if you look across political parties, Tejashwi Yadav more or less remains intact from 40 to 37, is not such a great dip. You can see Prashant Kishor going up, but what you can really see is Chirag Paswan going up, which tells you that by promoting a youth icon figure, the BJP will tend to gain. Now, what does Chirag Paswan's face and his political party's lineage get you? Remember, the Prime Minister's played that political card, and it's a gamble. Till now, the BJP was an upper caste party, an anti-Lalu party. It was also believed that they wouldn't ultimately side with the reservation walas. But today, the BJP's crossed over, given a Bharat Ratna to Karpuri Thakur, and said we will do caste census.
Right.
So the BJP is in a complete somersault. Getting Chirag Paswan has many advantages, remember, to be able to blunt this powerful caste image that the Prime Minister himself is propelling. So it's a very good gamesmanship, multiple games equilibrium. Difficult to do more justice on this analysis, but more later. I'm very excited about these possibilities.
Well, caste and youth, you're right there. But before I set into, I dip into our next set of data, I want to bring in quickly Mr. Kumar to weigh in on how he would decipher the numbers that he sees. And what is most surprising, I would reckon all four of you agree, it's the rise, even if though it's just about 10.6%, but coming in at 3.6 to 3.7 to 10.6 is a sizable jump, Mr. Kumar, for Chirag Paswan.
Yes, if we are looking at these numbers standalone, it is a sizable jump. But I have some unease about these numbers because yes, Tejashwi stands way ahead of Nitish Kumar. But do I get a sense that Nitish Kumar is so unpopular that Tejashwi's popularity is double than Nitish Kumar's popularity? My own sense is that yes, Tejashwi might lead the race, but the kind of lead he is establishing in the survey, I have a little unease about that. Prashant Kishor, yes, you can see is stabilizing, but the question which other panelist was asking whether this will convert into vote share or not, we don't know. I have serious doubt about that. But yes, if you do a survey much before elections, and these surveys are done almost 6 months before election, you do get surprising results. Surprising means people who are already campaigning, and campaigning very hard, like Prashant Kishor. So they tend to get attraction, which is getting reflected in the survey. But as you come close to the day of election,
you think he's going to lose this team? But interesting. But Yashwant Deshmukh, I want to get you into what Mr. Kumar said. Why do you see such a huge jump of over 20%, nearly 20% between Tejashwi Yadav and Nitish Kumar? Is it because Tejashwi Yadav is seen as, the entire monolith of the Gathbandhan, where it is not fragmented, while in the others you can see that fragmentation?
Well, Preeti, Sanjay Bhai is right. I mean, if we ask this question as a two-horse race question, giving only the option of Tejashwi and Nitish Kumar, then obviously all the NDA numbers will rally behind, Nitish Kumar. And that's where the numbers of Nitish Kumar probably will supersede or will be at par with, if not more than Tejashwi Yadav. So he is right. He is absolutely right. And the reason why Samrat Choudhury's numbers have gone down is also because of the fact that BJP actually took a lot of pains to say that, nobody from our side is a face and it is only face of Nitish Kumar. So that has kind of, and please remember, last time the votes that Chirag Paswan polled were mostly the angry BJP votes, which did not wanted to vote for JDU candidates. So, and he had given the candidates precisely against the JDU candidate, not against the BJP candidate.
True.
So, the fact that the BJP decided that, okay, we do not want to have any horse directly from the BJP and supported Nitish. So, some of that BJP voter also rallied behind Chirag Paswan. At one point of time, before the India-Pakistan thing happened, actually, Chirag in our tracker almost touched 14%. And that was very surprising for me because earlier, Avita pointed out, on Aaj Tak that the maximum that LJP has ever touched is roughly about 12% in 2005 elections under Ram Vilas Paswan. So they have that kind of traction about 10 to 12%.
Right.
But right now, I believe that it is the BJP's tailwind which is kind of giving that kind of...
before we're going to go into the next set of data, one second, we just want to, before we file out of this, because it's important sometime to understand the data that we're putting out. And as all four of our experts just laid it out for you, when you look at it, it might look at this massive increase for Tejashwi Yadav. But Tejashwi Yadav for the Mahagathbandhan, if you seem to suggest, is one monolith figure where, the likes of Congress really haven't registered anything noteworthy for us to even put it on the board. The others that you see is a clear division where the NDA is concerned. So it was only, like Yashwant pointed out, a two-horse race between Tejashwi Yadav and Nitish Kumar. Possibly, you would have a Nitish Kumar fare better than a Tejashwi. So important to understand the numbers there as well. But I want to quickly move on to our next two. And we're going to give out two back-to-back set of data coming in. One with the question on what do people of Bihar feel or gauge in terms of the performance of their state government. Let's take you through those figures. Very much satisfied. The current percentage of that stands at 34.3%. It hasn't really, it's actually improved from February if you look at that marker. Satisfied to some extent, practically remains the same. Not at all satisfied is nothing really much seemed to have changed on that account. So net, you have same number of people who are satisfied and practically exactly the same number of people who are dissatisfied. Can't say remains practically the same. Satisfied to some extent is an important figure that you might want to look at in this particular data chart. Let's move on to our second set of questions that are coming in. Performance of the Chief Minister in Bihar. So this is important. Performance of the Chief Minister will be Nitish Kumar's performance. From February to May, if you look at that marker, there's actually been a 2.1% increase there. Satisfied to some extent, again from 27.1 to 25.4%, not a big jump, not at all satisfied, remains just about the same, 39.3% to 39.8%. Once again, I want to cut across to us, or let's bring in the other set of data, performance of opposition in Bihar. So we've given you how people perceive the performance of the state government. We've told you what Bihar people perceive the performance of the Chief Minister. Now let's get on to the performance of the opposition. Very much satisfied, February 35.1%. Now that's a sizable jump there. It's 42.4% in May. Let's look at the not at all satisfied, 30.5%, 30.5%, and then 30.1%. So there's not much change in that. Satisfied to some extent, 25.1% was in February. Now that has come down to 17.4%. Can't say remains practically the same, which is 9.3%. And now through the course to May, it's come to 10.1%. I want to cut across to our experts again. Amitabh Tiwari, how would you analyze this set of three questions and what the respondents polled?
If you see the question on satisfaction with the government performance, it's a tie. I mean, yes and no is a tie, correct? It reminds us of the polarized or the very competitive election we had in 2020, wherein the vote shares of both Mahagathbandhan and NDA were almost tied. So this somewhat or satisfied to some extent, this 29% people actually are going to decide who will form the next government, because both sides are very much polarized and sort of fixed vote banks. This 29% is going to decide. The same trend continues when you move to the performance of the Chief Minister. But here, if you see, not at all satisfied is higher than very much satisfied, which indicates or which corroborates with the weakening of Nitish Kumar's position and his weakening from 37-38% in 2020 to now 18-19%. So there, the performance of the Chief Minister perhaps is lower than the performance of the state government. So you can say that the BJP ministers or the alliance ministers are contributing to the satisfaction, and that is why we have more leaders from the NDA, Chirag Paswan or a Samrat Choudhry also figuring in the top CM race. Now, when you go to the performance of the opposition, now we see that it has risen by about 7% in the past 3-4 months. So we see people, around 7% people moving from satisfied to some extent to very much satisfied by the performance of the opposition. Whereas the not at all satisfied is again fixed at 30%.
Right.
Again, perhaps corroborating with the performance of the Chief Minister and the leaders combined, which is at 35%.
Right.
So this indicates that but these are very contradictory trends in that sense. Tejashwi Yadav's rating is declining, though marginally for this period, but the rating or the satisfaction with the opposition is actually increasing by 7%.
And that's quite a fair bit of increase. But, Yashwant Deshmukh, before I go, to Dr. Manisha Priyam, I wouldn't read the data so badly where the government is concerned. If 29.4%, if you're even keel on very satisfied and not satisfied, and you stand at 29.4% to satisfied to some extent, would look like a state which is not really looking at change. Because if you're somewhat satisfied, then you're satisfied.
Well, yes and no. As Amitabh just mentioned, I mean, this is something which can go either way. And also on the opposition ratings going up, I have my assumption that probably a lot of people who are supporting Prashant also consider him as an opposition leader at this point of time.
Right.
I mean, he is to be counted not in the NDA bloc, but actually in the opposition bloc, even though he is not part of the Mahagathbandhan. That's fine, but as a standalone leader. What is interesting for me to observe in this entire thing, Preeti, is that chief minister's unpopularity is not that thing, but I am sensing a fatigue of sort with the chief minister, and surprisingly, I am also sensing that if BJP would have gone all alone, they might have actually have pulled it off, but they know very well that they cannot take the risk of Nitish going away and back to the Mahagathbandhan, and that is where the arithmetic is going to take over. Yeah, I mean, whatever the numbers positively you are looking at it, it is coming from the BJP's quota.
All right. Okay. Dr. Manisha Prem, how do you look at it? Because yes, there is a contradiction. Very much satisfied with the opposition. Goes from 35.1% in February all the way to 42.4% in May. So, you know, and that's quite a significant jump. But when you look at the performance of the state government, it's even keel and mostly 30% satisfied to some extent.
So I think the first slide is the most important slide, not the one on the opposition. Remember, in Bihar, it's the ruling combination that is being tested since 2005-6, when power slipped out of the hands of Lalu Prasad Yadav and whatever combined he may have led at that point of time. That power has remained with Nitish Kumar and whatever combination he's led, in fact, including the Pied Piper of Hamelin having charmed the two sons of Lalu into his own fold. So really, I would say that the first row that you have is the committed voter of Nitish Kumar saying very much satisfied. Okay, so that number, in fact, the buoyancy of it somewhat remaining within the 30-34% range, not even touching the 35. Now, this tells you one thing, that there is a committed Nitish vote, and which is the reason why that the Prime Minister, despite the BJP Karyakarta, saying that we've been hemmed in by Nitish Kumar, not been allowed to perform, etc. The Prime Minister safely says, put Nitish in front. You've seen many gaffes, including in the recent visit of the Prime Minister, in the performative aspects of the stage that he shares with Nitish Kumar, but he is keeping quiet because he knows where it lies. Now, the second one, somewhat satisfied to some extent, is largely the BJP saying it. It cannot say satisfied with Nitish Kumar. It can say it in private, but not publicly. Now, as far as Prashant Kishor is concerned, Prashant Kishor is a critic of row number one. Prashant Kishor does not attack the BJP. He attacks the Bihari leadership, which is Nitish Kumar. He attacks Tejashwi. And certainly, it's not the Prime Minister or Amit Shah, etc., who's up in the line there. So I would say Prashant Kishor's views are not represented in the middle column. The middle column is by and large a BJP voter saying this.
Okay.
But the third part also tells you that whether Nitish Kumar built roads beginning from Bihar to the moon, that last row will never say they are satisfied. So it's actually a committed voter of the RJD, and it will remain there.
Right. So you read the numbers positively for the government?
Yes. No, it's positively for the BJP and NDA alliance.
That's what I'm saying. The alliance, the current incumbent government, which is the alliance.
For the elections, positive. The opposition one is a little tricky, and that I would explain at another round if you have questions. And
what I'm going to do is
before to be summed up together, remember.
Okay, I'm going to get into the next three set of questions, which is, of course, a macro level of questioning on what the voters or the respondents feel about Prime Minister Modi and the larger national opposition. But before that, I want to bring in Mr. Kumar. Mr. Kumar, if you're looking at these numbers which have been projected, it's interesting because we have Amitabh Tiwari who says there's a bit of a contradiction in numbers. Manisha Prem looking at it positively where the incumbent government is concerned. How do you read these numbers?
I think if you look at all the 3 or 4 tables and all the numbers, I do get a sense of the political divide in the state. If you look at, whether it is about satisfaction of the government and satisfaction with the opposition, whether it is about chief ministers or on all the question, I get a sense of the political divide in the state. And I think the state is heading for an interesting election. When I say interesting election, I mean a keenly contested election coming up in the next few months' time.
All right, okay. Now let's quickly dive into our next set of data because we're running out of time, where we, now just pulling out a little from a macro lens, what did the respondents feel when asked about the performance of the Prime Minister? And those figures coming in right there. Let's get the figures on performance of the Prime Minister. Very much satisfied. 44%, 44.4% in February, all the way jumps to 48.7% in May. Not at all satisfied. 29% in February comes down to 26% in May. So clearly a positive trend for the Prime Minister. A lot of that could be at the back of opposition's Operation Sindoor. Performance of Rahul Gandhi, very much satisfied. 34.4% has come down 4% in May to 30.4%. Not at all satisfied. 36.1%. Now that's a very marginal dip. 35.4%. But the very much satisfied percentage has in fact dropped. Preferred prime ministerial candidate. Interesting there. Narendra Modi, 54.7% in February. Gains about a little less than 2% in May at 56.2%. Rahul Gandhi, 39.2%. Comes down quite a bit to 35.9%. Mind you, if you put in all of this in context, that Bihar is one of the states that Rahul Gandhi has visited maximum this year. He's actually going again this particular week. But the Prime Minister clearly gaining from February all the way to May. And I would reckon, Yashwant Deshmukh, of course, Operation Sindoor, one of the major reasons for that, and possibly even the announcement on the caste census.
Both hand in hand. It happened in the same period. But I would actually look at these numbers with exactly what Manisha explained in her comments earlier, that it's largely the buoyancy of the NDA numbers is because of the BJP and Prime Minister's popularity. Let's put it this way. It's that's something, and we ask this question just to understand basically where they are standing. And when you look into Tejashwi Yadav's number and Rahul Gandhi's number, you tend to get a sense that, okay, there is a almost 35-36% committed anti-BJP vote, which are going to remain there, And when you talk about only Nitish Kumar, you get to around 35%. But the moment you put in Narendra Modi into the ring, you look at the possibility which is going beyond 50%. So that 20% thing is something which tells you or decodes what Manisha said, that it is the satisfied to some extent in terms of CM and state government.
But I'll come, Yashwant, can I ask you can I ask you one quick question? Because, of course, this tracker is limited to February 2025. But if we look at the Lok Sabha elections last year, so the BJP and the Prime Minister seemingly gaining from that.
Of course, yes. Because as you just mentioned, that caste census was one of the big things, no doubt about that. I think that is something which is driving that particular section's vote share probably towards them. And they are very meticulous in that planning. But Operation Sindoor and its aftermath, that has also contributed. Basically, it's not adding new votes. Please try to understand. Manisha would probably explain it better. It is just galvanizing what their support base is. It's not that they are adding new number to it. And Bihar happens and remains to be a highly politically polarized state. But that 20% middle of the ground voter is largely the BJP voter.
Fair point. And, okay, Manisha Prem, Dr. Prem, I'm going to bring you in on this. If the BJP or the NDA is looking at these numbers, they'd be happy because they'd be hoping to consolidate on this in months to come.
Yeah, I mean, you have to see the ground to understand this. Today, there's not a doubt in the fact that, and I had said this in an earlier political stock exchange when many people got back to me and said that I hadn't read the field well, etc. If you look at the ground, you have to realize that because the opposition led by Tejashwi Yadav and the RJD has not been able to take up cudgels with the BJP or with Nitish Kumar, that the organizational efforts made by the BJP over the past decade today, the most charged up mood of Karyakartas on the ground is that of the BJP, literally. So you have fragments. In fact, one of the parties we are not even discussing is the CPI-ML and Dipankar Bhattacharya, etc. They work, but their presence is patchy and limited. They require the RJD to be able to scale up. The RJD itself has its own palace politics and coup. So who's swaying the ground? It's obviously the BJP. Now, therefore, these numbers tell you it's not just about the satisfaction with the central government or Operation
Right.
Sindoor. Those could be other matters. But if you look at it simply as a Bihari leader, who's there to counter the Prime Minister? That's what I want to understand.
All right. Okay, very quickly, I want to go to Amitabh Tiwari and Mr. Kumar. Amitabh Tiwari, very quickly, sir.
No, essentially, I mean, the Prime Minister's rating is a boost primarily because of Operation Sindoor and the caste census announcement. And Rahul Gandhi's numbers are falling because of the many gaffes he has made and the questions he has been asking about Operation Sindoor. But as far as I understand, this election, BJP cannot win on the face of the Prime Minister. This election is a hyper-local contest. It will be a seat-by-seat election. When the prime ministerial phase could not work in a Lok Sabha election overall, I don't see the prime ministerial phase being able to.
It's interesting because Mr. Amitabh Tiwari doesn't quite concur with, at least with on this panel, with what Manisha Prem is saying. But that's the beauty of numbers and how you read them. But interesting, because that means we are in for an interesting election. Dr. Kumar,
satisfied to some extent also means dissatisfied to some extent.
You're in the some extent right now. Amitabh Tiwari is polling in the some extent for either ways.
Preeti, it depends on how you read the ground. And I'm a field worker perpetually.
You're a field worker. Amitabh Tiwari is a man of numbers. So interesting. This is going to be a classic conflict, during election coverage of Bihar. And we are hoping to have the both of you here. But interesting. Right now, Dr. Kumar, final words, sir. I need to go into a quick break.
There's nothing surprising in the data about the popularity of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Rahul Gandhi, because whenever we have done the survey, whether you do it now or maybe 6 months before, Prime Minister Modi has always been ahead of Rahul Gandhi. This is a bipolar contest, not in terms of BJP and Congress in the state, but at least NDA and UPA. And this is not surprising that Prime Minister Modi is at 50s and the mid 50s. Right. Rahul Gandhi is in the 30s. So this 20% gap you will find in many states.
Very interesting, because I just want to quickly go back, to Yashwant Deshmukh before we go into a break. Yashwant Deshmukh, let me hark back to Lok Sabha elections at that point of time. How were these numbers then, and how are these numbers now?
Well, I would say it is status quo at this point of time. There is a fatigue, particularly among the BJP supporters for the Chief Minister. But at the same time, once the BJP has decided, to go with Nitish Kumar, then as Manisha just said, that is all about the organizational strength. And more often than not, in the last 12 months, Preeti, we have seen the organization at play from the BJP side in so many states, which both of us have written off earlier.
You're right.
So we know that organization.
We know very well, sir. I understand. So we are going to just let it be on that account and wait for the next round of numbers and our tracker to come in. I appreciate all four of you for joining us. So take it all with a pinch of salt, but this is the tracker. But if you really look at it, numbers don't really lie. It's, it's not so much as what reporters might feel or the ground feel. These are the numbers, and one needs to dig in deeper to analyze what the numbers suggest. And there's no better place than right here on India Today and the Political Stock Exchange to do that.